All right, thank you very much for joining us on this segment of Marketing Edge on TV. Today, I'm privileged to have the Commissioner of Information and Strategy, Lagos State, Mr. Gbenga Omotoso. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
I'm going to start this way. How would you describe the recent COVID-19 experience, you being the Chief Information and Strategy Officer of the state? How did it come to you?
Well, incredible, I would say. And incredible in the sense that it's a major calamity for humanity that was unexpected. Around the time that it broke out, nobody the previous year ever thought that something of that kind of such magnitude could ever come upon humanity. But it came, and then it was so disturbing, so sad. But, well, to God be the glory, and the kind of leadership we have in Lagos, Mr. Sanwo-Olu, the governor, and the team, we rose to the occasion. So, like I said, it was incredible. It was a very tough experience, but very useful.
Indeed, something would have come as a strategic plan, talking about information now, managing the information. How did you start with that, Honorable Commissioner?
Well, the whole thing started very long time before everybody woke up to it in Nigeria, for example. As far back as December 2019, the Commissioner for Health informed the Executive Council, led by Mr. Sanwo-Olu, that something was going on in China. It might come here. So we started preparing. And I knew that of all the things that we do, information is key. And I knew that my ministry was going to play a major role in all of this. So we started planning. And by the time the whole thing came, it didn't come upon us as a surprise or as a shock. We were prepared for it.
Now, it now comes to the choice of communication networks that you want to use to disseminate this information for Lagosians to hear. So how did that also play out?
Yeah, we met in the ministry as a team. And then we invited our man in the Ministry of Health and thought about how to disseminate information around this time. First, we decided that we would not give room for speculation, because when this kind of thing happens, people want to speculate and dish out falsehood, fake news. This is the era of fake news in which we are living now, and then to cause panic in the system. We said, well, we are not going to allow that to happen, and we are going to do that by being open, by being transparent, and that we will choose the kind of information tools that we will use for every part of Lagos. In the urban center, we use television and radio and all of that. In the local areas, we have to use people, town criers, chiefs, traditional rulers, and our public enlightenment team going out almost every day to meet people one-on-one, attending town union meetings, and then use our community development associations. We have over 370 of them. And then we linked up with these guys to ensure that the news and stories we wanted to push out, so that to kill speculations, that such stories were getting to the grassroots. And it was really very effective.
I can imagine there must have been some challenges. How did you face them in all of this little time when you had to just attend to everything at the same time?
The greatest challenge I can recall is that of allowing people not to speculate about what was going on, and telling people that this is a very serious matter, and then showing that government means well, and that if there are regulations that the government is asking us to obey, we should obey because it is for our own good. So it was a bit difficult convincing people. It was a bit difficult asking people not to speculate. It was a bit difficult asking people not to panic, even as you tell them, and they see on television how dangerous this disease is. So that was the major challenge, convincing people that they should obey regulations, and at the same time asking them not to panic, because COVID-19 is not a death sentence.
Really, indeed, it's not a death sentence. Now, seeing the way Lagos excelled, because I must agree that Lagos really excelled in all of this, was it that there was a pre-planned, or when the Commissioner of Health said something was coming up, were you already preparing, or what was responsible for that? Because I know it's really a remarkable success.
It's a question of leadership. Like I told you, the Commissioner for Health saw it late in December and announced, he told the governor that this thing that I'm seeing in China could come to Lagos and that it was going to go around the world the way it was coming up. And the governor, believing in his team, rallied everybody. And then, encouraged by the ESCO, we now came together and decided to tackle it because we knew that Lagos was going to be a major port of call for this kind of thing. We have the biggest airport in the land. Almost over 70% of traffic coming into Nigeria through Lagos. So we had no choice. We knew that it was not just a question of whether the thing was coming to Lagos, it was a question of when. So we started preparing early enough.
At any time, was there any threat to the state or to your ministry? Was there any threat talking about COVID-19?
Not really what I can call about threat, but it was intellectually certain, it was intellectually challenging, and it was physically challenging too, because we had to be on the road almost every day. We had to be at our desk almost every day thinking about how to communicate information to Lagosians, and we had to be there for Mr. Governor anytime he wanted to make an announcement, anytime he wanted to tell Lagosians anything, what he should tell them, how they should tell them, and whatever he said, we had to be the vehicle to relay it to the public. So it was intellectually tasking. It was a challenging time for our time and for our resources.
Indeed, it really was a test. Now you're talking about the channels which you used, television, radio, of course, social media too, and all of that.
Of course.
Now, how would you assess our performance? Let me include myself now because I'm a media person too. Our performance in disseminating these informations, a lot of live broadcasts, so tell us what you think about the media or how they reacted to this.
Honestly, I think the media have done well. They have risen to the occasion. But I'm not surprised about that. The Nigerian media, they have a history of rising to the occasion whenever the need arises. I mean, in the days of the military, what they did in bringing back democracy to Nigeria, I mean, it's quite remarkable. And this one, the media saw it as a national challenge, if not a global challenge. And they rose to the occasion. And, you know, they deployed everything that they needed to deploy, even at the risk of journalists' lives, because people were talking about frontline workers, talking about the health workers, about medical doctors and all of that. But honestly, I think journalists, they really, really tried risking their life to report the COVID-19 pandemic. And I give kudos to them.
Indeed, Lagos remains an epic center. Now, what lessons would you say you've learned to prepare? You know, we don't pray for any other global pandemic, but let's assume issues like this pop up again. Honorable Commissioner, what are you thinking? What else would you do? Maybe do better?
Now, I think the first lesson is that in everything, be prepared. You have to prepare to avert calamity by preparing against it. And I think the lesson that this has shown us is that in preparing, you give room for eventualities. You give room for things that you may not even have prepared for, anything that may come upon you by chance. So preparedness is the first lesson. You need just to be prepared at all times, because we live in a world of in which you go to war every day. If not, you go to battle every day. So you see your job as going to battle every day. So you get prepared all of the time.
I can't imagine. Now, managing the communication of COVID-19, did it any way also affect maybe your projections or plans for the ministry, maybe activities you already had on ground? Were there any, any changes anywhere with regards to COVID-19?
Yeah, of course, so much. So much. Like I told you, around the time that it happened, the previous year, nobody ever planned. In preparing your budget, in preparing your plans for the year, in preparing your estimates, nobody ever planned that COVID-19 or something near what has happened was going to happen. So there was no plan for it. So when it now came, it affected all the plans, almost all the plans that we had, the training programs, the trips that we were supposed to make, the regional offices that we were supposed to strengthen, our communication channels, our agencies that we were supposed to strengthen. It affected business, it affected all facets of life. So it really caused a major disruption in our programs. But like I said, we don't look at that in Lagos. What we look at in Lagos is what advantage can we take out of this? And I tell you, there have been so many advantages. And what we are now trying to do is to turn the calamity into a major advantage for Lagos to, from here, move forward.
Indeed, Lagos remains an epic center. Now, what lessons would you say you've learned to prepare, we don't pray for any other global pandemic, but let's assume issues like this pop up again. Honorable Commissioner, what are you thinking? What else would you do, maybe do better?
Now, I think the first lesson is that in everything, be prepared. You have to prepare to avert calamity by preparing against it. And I think the lesson that this has shown us is that in preparing, you give room for eventualities. You give room for things that you may not even have prepared for, anything that may come upon you by chance. So preparedness is the first lesson. You need just to be prepared at all times, because we live in a world of in which you go to war every day. If not, you go to battle every day. So you see your job as going to battle every day. So you get prepared all of the time.
I can't imagine. Now, managing the communication of COVID-19, did it any way also affect maybe your projections or plans for the ministry, maybe activities you already had on ground? Were there any, any changes anywhere with regards to COVID-19?
Yeah, of course, so much. So much. Like I told you, around the time that it happened, the previous year, nobody ever planned in preparing your budget, in preparing your plans for the year, in preparing your estimates. Nobody ever planned that COVID-19 or something near what has happened was going to happen. So there was no plan for it. So when it now came, it affected all the plans, almost all the plans that we had, the training programs, the trips that we were supposed to make, the regional offices that we were supposed to strengthen, our communication channels, our agencies that we were supposed to strengthen. It affected business, it affected all facets of life. So it really caused a major disruption in our programs. But like I said, we don't look at that in Lagos. What we look at in Lagos is what advantage can we take out of this? And I tell you, there have been so many advantages. And what we are now trying to do is to turn the calamity into a major advantage for Lagos to, from here, move forward.
I can imagine. Now, the confidence of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu is something that everybody has talked about. The way he calms us down, the way he lets everybody understand what is happening. He gets the information from you, from the health commissioner, and he reels it out. Like, what do you think is responsible during these challenging times? He was there and was always apt when he talks to us.
Yeah, what we have to realize is the two people that we have at the helm in Lagos, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, the governor, and the deputy governor, Dr. Obafemi Kadri Hamzat, these are people who have been preparing for leadership for long. They have had experience, they've been commissioners, they've headed agencies, and such people, you don't bring a matter of this magnitude to them and then they will be shaking. They have seen several things like that. They have been informed before, and they have the attribute of being leaders who can lead from the front. So Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu reads out figures and facts like a doctor, because he has listened to doctors and he has been not just on the front line watching, but participating. I remember the first time I followed him to the hospital in Yaba, the infectious disease hospital in Yaba, where we have our main isolation center. He put on the personal protection equipment, and then the deputy governor to put it on. And we were joking about how hot it was on their body. And all. So he was involved in everything right from day one. And he's a hands-on manager. And he, has shown so much leadership in this because he knows the essence of leadership. It is often said that leaders are known, true leaders are known in times of crisis. And this crisis has really shown what Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu can do as a leader.
Indeed.
Confident, energetic, visionary, and somebody who thinks fast on his feet.
Tell you, I must agree. I agree with you. Now, I don't want to be specific, thinking that maybe advising other states, but what do you think others can do better? You know, Lagos has always been that state that everybody looks up to learn from. What can they learn and tap from you at this very time of crisis? Other states of the Federation.
Well, we are all working together as a state. Lagos has its own peculiar problem. So we must prepare in an extraordinary manner. Because if you look at the population of Lagos, it's so heavy and it keeps on growing every day. People from other states that you are talking about, they come into Lagos every day because, I mean, Nigerians have a right to come into Lagos. So every time we have to raise our game. So my advice to other states is that, well, they should keep on trying to raise their own game too, and then do things that they feel they can see in Lagos that they can copy. Because we too, we are humble to copy from other cities of the world. We are a city-state. We are not a federation. We are not a national. We are a sub-national. So we too will look up to other places in the world. So I wish to, well, if they see that Lagos is truly the center of excellence as it is, they too should find something to copy.
Indeed. Let's now, it's August, but let's look at projections as we move on in 2020. What more do we expect, maybe from the ministry or maybe from the state?
What we'll expect is that we are trying to reopen the economy gradually, and in doing this, we will be going back to our traditional duty of disseminating information that can help business in Lagos, that can make Lagos grow bigger in terms of resources, in terms of social development, in terms of human development, in terms of everything that our governor has planned to do in health, in education, in communication, in all spheres of human life that we have said in our budgets that we are going to touch, especially in the area of business, so that the environment in Lagos is made more conducive for businesses to thrive, so that all Lagosians can have a sense of belonging, because everything that the government is trying to provide, the roads, the hospitals, there is no part of Lagos that does not deserve such things. And our plan is to see that all Lagosians, they enjoy all these things without much pay. And from now till the end of the year, we are going to be pursuing vigorously the budget that we have announced.
Now, almost finally, we're almost done. I'm now looking at, you're a professional communications person, and now looking at Lagos. Lagos is another ball game, more than 20 million people. Now, how would you assess information management? Now, generally, not only COVID now, what's your general assessment of how far you have gone in managing information across the state?
Let me not deceive you, it's been very challenging. Personally, as a journalist, I used to be an editor. And there is this popular thinking in journalism that editors are supposed to be heard and not seen. So many people did not know me. They were only hearing about me through my columns, through my newspaper. But now I have to come out and talk about the good things that we are doing in Lagos. I have to come and plan how things will be better for our people. I have to come and plan how to support the vision of the governor and the deputy governor in moving, as they say, Lagos forward. So for me, it's a kind of different terrain that I am learning so fast. And I think so far so good. It's quite interesting moving from journalism and now becoming a communications expert.
Indeed.
You know,
it's clear, passing that information of the center of excellence and even the themes agenda. A lot of message you'll be passing to Lagosians at this time. Give us an overview of some of it.
Well, if you look at the themes agenda, it encapsulates everything that is the vision of this administration. And there is nothing about human activity, business, engineering, everything, education, health, that is not in the themes agenda. It's just for us to be able to remember that we have a vision, that this is the vision of the leadership, and we have to follow. If you go out of my office now, you see a big billboard about the team's agenda, and it's like that in all ministries and all agencies of government, for us to know our mission, so that at the end of the day, when people judge us, they'll be able to judge us against the team's agenda. And I think so far so good.
Okay, almost finally now, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Mr. Gbenga Omotoso?
That's a very big question, the kind of question that we used to give people looking for jobs in my days in the newsroom. We ask you to write about yourself. Honestly, talking about myself depends on the kind of aspect that you will want to know. Gbenga Omotoso is a journalist, a satirist, a writer, a reporter, and who has now found himself in public office, and who is planning to leave a mark that will be indelible in public office, and who has sworn to pursue the agenda of the administration of Mr. Baide Sanwo-Olu, so that the whole world will know that we have a true leadership in Lagos.
My final question looks a little bit complex. I don't know. How did you become a communication professional? I just want to follow it the way it's said. But how did you become a communication professional? Know all of this encompassing.
Well, I normally, as an editor, as a journalist, and now somebody who is involved in public affairs, who is involved in a public office, I have been reading and learning and attending training on how to improve myself, so that my new job, I'll be able to add value. I'll be able to add value to the extent that everybody will know that in Lagos, there is somebody who has, put in a machinery that is working in terms of communication in Lagos.
Let's leave it at that. Commissioner of Information and Strategy, Lagos State, Mr. Gbenga Omotoso. Thank you very much for your time speaking to us on Marketing Edge on TV.
Thank you so much.